Do you remember when you first started Pokemon Unite? It was so new, it was so different. A lot of us had no idea what we were doing. Everyone thought attack weight was bad when it was actually one of the best items in the game. We ran Floatstone when it was actually a horrible item back then. And we also thought Rotom was the better objective over Dreadnought for the entirety of the game. Okay, maybe that was still stuck for some players. Those dang Rotom gamers. But over time, most of us learned what is most valuable in Remote Stadium. We adapted, we improved, and even though there were a lot of matchmaking complaints, I gotta say it was a lot better in Season 5 than it was in Season 1. But now it feels kind of bad, and that's because it's kind of like we're back at square one. Not entirely. A lot of us know the foundations and core strategies that can still apply in your game no matter what map we are on. The current map is totally different. The meta has changed so much that while you can apply a lot of what you know from Remote Stadium to the new map, you can't exactly win the same way anymore. In this video, I'm going to share with you 10 new tips and strategies to win more in Pokemon Unite. Basically, it's the new way to win. Hi trainers, I'm Teeds. This is Nuts for the question of the day. If you have any more tips, please leave in the comments down below. This is what I learned during my grind to master in Thea Sky Ruin, so I'd love if you could share what you learned too. This is from a solo queue perspective, so strategies and tips may be different in more coordinated games like 5-man duos or trios, but most of this is solo queue, but it should still be able to help you no matter how many people are in your team. The meta can always change and it can always shift. If there are any major huge changes, I will have an update video or I will write it in a pinned comment down below. Number 1, goodbye Zapdos, hello Rayquaza. Understanding the difference between these two is vital for your games because the biggest change is right here. A big reason why the strats and the meta is so different now and why solo queue can feel a bit more rough is that this meta no longer revolves around the "oh, I'm so important, I'm the big objective," and that is Zapdos. A wise man once said, to win more games, just still zap 5-head. But no, in all seriousness, the game was a very coin flippy and Zapdos centric. You could be losing all game, have no teamwork. Sometimes it felt like Pokemon Unite at Rotom, but Pokemon Divide at Dreadnought. But if you or someone on your team manages to grab Zapdos, you pretty much win as long as your teammates score as well. It was so hard to stop a team from scoring on Zap because it was instant during the double scoring time, but now Rayquaza replaces Zapdos and you can't win the same way anymore. You actually can counter this. The first 8 minutes now actually matter a lot. What you do all game plays a part in how it ends, whereas with Zapdos it felt like that the first 8 minutes didn't matter as much at all. Whichever team secures Rayquaza gets a huge score shield, where as long as this shield is on you, you cannot be interrupted while scoring. You also have increased scoring speed and you also have increased damage. It sounds crazy, right? But there is actually so much counterplay to this in comparison to what Zapdos did for us. I find this so healthy for competitive, but a lot trickier in solo queue, so these tips hopefully can help your solo queue games. If we're all watching it, then maybe we will all be on the same page. Number 2, Rayquaza counterplays. There are multiple ways to counterplay Rayquaza, so hope is not lost. If the enemy team gets Rayquaza, with Zapdos it was very different. Let's be real, a lot of us probably were spamming surrender when the enemy team took Zapdos. I mean, you can still win, but the chances were slim. Counterplay number 1, break their shields. If their shields break, which is the white part of their health bar, they will not have any protection when scoring. This means they can be interrupted, because remember, this shield is basically just a huge score shield, but it also protects them from damage, and when that's gone, then you'll start damaging their actual health. But yeah, it's basically a big score shield, and to break their shields, all you have to do is deal damage to them. But this means you want to prioritize easy and squishy targets. For example, a defender or supporter generally has more health and defenses than other roles. This means their shields will take longer to break, and because you're spending so much time breaking their shields, your other opponents have more time to escape your team and score. But if you focus the targets who are easier to KO, like attackers and speedsters, you can easily shred through their shield and take the effects of Rayquaza away from them. The more shields you break, the harder it is for your opponents to reap the benefits of Rayquaza. Counterplay number 2. Some moves just don't care. Some Pokemon can actually interrupt their scoring regardless if they have Rayquaza's shield. For example, Snorlax can actually push them off and stop them from scoring. Tyranitar deals true damage and actually bypasses the shields, interrupting them right away. Slowbro can stop them with its Unite move. I have no idea why, and I'll get into this further down, but Slowbro can for some reason stop them with its Unite move. So that's the thing, like they really just made me hate it more than I did. So that, yeah, Slowbro, it's just I hate it when it unites. I just hate it. There's probably some more, and if you do know some, feel free to let us know in the comments down below. Counterplay number 3, counter scoring. So this strat still applies in the new map and you can counter score. This works a lot better if you're already in the lead and if you're already winning and the enemy team is just throwing Rayquaza Rayquaza, you and your team could just simply score while you're ahead. However, it's not that simple as every game is different. For example, if only one of you counter score and only get 100 in, but the enemy team got Rayquaza and somehow all have like 50 each, that's a lot of points going in. It's a bit hard in solo queue to coordinate with your team, but counter scoring is still something that works well as long as most are on the same page. Counter play number 4. Cannot say this name, I apologize. Regieleki, Regirotom, you know what I mean. This was sometimes used in Remote Stadium, but this works especially well if you manage to break all the enemy goal zones in the top lane. Grabbing Regieleki just before Rayquaza spawns adds a ton of pressure to the enemy team, forces them to separate to defend, or they can just ignore it and it goes into the enemy base goal zone. It pretty much acts like a mini Zapdos, as you can double instant score around that time. These are the main ones I have, but if you have more counter plays, feel free to let us know in the comments down below. Number 3, the best way to utilize Rayquaza. Your team could secure Rayquaza and still lose. Huge difference from Zapdos. It's crazy, it's weird, I know, but you can still lose. The best way to utilize this is still similar in some ways to Zapdos, but basically those who are unhealthy or are squishier should score in the safer goal zones, which are the outer goal zones, and those who are healthier, faster, tankier, just built diff, or have a lot of mobility should score in the more dangerous goal zones, which are the ones closest to the enemy base. If you're a defender or someone who has a lot of health, let your attackers and speedsters score first on the outer goal zone. If you both have the same amount, their shields are so much easier to break, so it's so much safer to let them score first. Remember, it's also not instant scoring anymore. The more teammates standing on the goal zone, the faster you will score. This is much more valuable for Rayquaza than if you got Zapdos, because with Zapdos, this benefit did not matter at all since you instant scored. And if you still have the Rayquaza shield after scoring, because it does stay on you as long as it's not broken through damage, you can actually get some more points around you and keep scoring because you will still not be interrupted because you still have that shield. This works especially great in games where it's close, but if you're ahead, you should go back to help defend your base. In saying that, very, very important, if you are so ahead and you did secure Rayquaza, you do not have to score. You do risk getting KO'd at their goal zone. This is especially important for squishier Pokemon. If you're already ahead and you secure Rayquaza, I feel that it's better to defend because you don't want to risk getting KO'd and losing your lead. If you've got that gray screen and the enemy team is closing on your goal zone, you're gonna be in big trouble. Number 4, don't use these moves to stop Rayquaza shields. While some moves can stop Rayquaza shields like Snorlax and Slowbro, there are also some moves that can be totally eaten by Rayquaza shields. For example, Charizard's Unite move cannot stop Rayquaza. It takes away 10% of your Unite move and you have to wait for it. Serena's Unite move is also the same way. Pikachu's Volt Tackle is also the same way. It seems to be like sure hit moves so far, like some of them, but I have no idea why it works on Slowbro's Unite move. So yeah, do keep in mind that for some moves this happens and it feels pretty bad, especially if it's a Unite move. Number 5, Regieleki versus the other 3 Regis. I think there is a lot of disconnect in team coordination right now in solo queue, as a lot of players are still treating it the same way as Remote Stadium. In Remote Stadium, bottom lane was prioritized for the first 2 spawns, and then it would usually switch to Rotom before Zapdos. But the 3 Regis on bottom lane is very different to Dreadnought. Number 1, they spawn at random. You could get the same one 3 times in a row. They spawn starting from the 7-minute mark and will respawn every 2 minutes. Number 2, they give way less experience than Dreadnought. And number 3, all Regis on bot lane give you a small shield, but each Regi gives you a different effect that lasts for 90 seconds. Registeel increases your team's special attack and physical attack. I personally like this one the best. Regirock increases your team's special and physical defense, and Regice increases your team's HP regeneration no matter where you're on the map. These buffs will give you advantages in different ways for team fights, so make sure you remember and know what you have to best utilize its effects. Honestly, I find Regieleki to be so much better. The value of Regieleki at the moment is way more than the bottom Regis. I actually think it's better to break and pressure the top goal zone now that Zapdos is not a thing anymore. This shouldn't be your entire focus in the game, but it does create very strong win conditions. Interestingly enough, while there were so many Rotom gamers in Remote Stadium, everyone loves going to the bottom lane Regis more. Like, where did the Rotom gamers go? Like, we could really use your help right now. But with that, because Zapdos is not a thing anymore, it's very important to maintain and defend your goal zones and make sure you grab farm while it's on the map. Experience, personally to me, is the most important in solo queue because the higher level you are, the bigger increase in stats. This makes a huge difference in team fights. I personally do not feel that these objectives are as important as Dreadnought, but I do feel that the best time to have Regieleki is for pressuring during Rayquaza. Definitely do not sacrifice yourself for these objectives. Sometimes ignoring everything to go for Regieleki can be more damaging meaning to your game, whereas before, Dreadnought gave experience to the whole team, which to me was more valuable. It's definitely not as straightforward as it used to be, which can be why solo queue is a lot harder now, but if you're contesting at Regieleki, I find that it's important to have at least one teammate defend bottom lane. It is so important to defend your goal zones. Number 6, with that, scoring, farming, and defending. Scoring feels a lot more impactful than ever. Before, you could just wait for Zapdos, like literally the first 8 minutes was just editor, cue the elevator music, and then Zapdos spawned. Like, you could literally be at 0 points and then get Zapdos and take over completely. Like, if Zapdos was a meme, it would be the Stonks meme. It would be that meme. That's the perfect meme for Zapdos. But now that Zapdos is gone, every score counts, sneaking scores, backcapping. I honestly would prioritize scoring and stealing the enemy farm over getting the bottom Regis, depending on what Pokemon I am. For example, if I was a speedster or an all-rounder, I try to create win conditions this way. Personally, if I was a defender or a supporter, I try to defend the goal zones. But all of this really depends on who you are. In a nutshell, it's super important to score, farm experience, and defend your goal zones throughout the entire game. It doesn't rely on Zapdos anymore. All of these things are very important now. You are playing to win throughout the whole entire game. I mean, sure, you were in Remote Stadium, but at least you had a backup plan. Zapdos was the backup plan. We don't have that plan anymore. There's no more safety net like that. So every bit counts in the new map. Number 7, know what Regis they have. Some of the Regis are definitely better than others. I have to say right now, after testing that, Regice is pretty much completely useless. Like, Regice is already a Pokemon, but its spirit Pokemon on the inside in Pokemon Unite, it is Magikarp. Useless. I'm sorry to Magikarp lovers, but it's true. It's true, I'm sorry.
I don't want to be your master.
However, one day they will buff it and it will blossom into a Gyarados. The health regeneration is pretty much nothing. Definitely needs a buff. Hold up, editor. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna have to pause you right here. So they actually buffed Regice. Yeah, they buffed it. Regice now heals 5% of your max health every 3 seconds. So I just want to let you know that Regice is now buffed. This will be a lot more noticeable on Pokemon who have a lot of max health. So this buff is definitely a whole lot better than it used to be. How much of an impact it makes at the moment is still too early to say, but I will update you how the meta shifts with all these buffs to the objectives. Just wanted to let you know that real quick, that Regice is no longer useless. With that, I find bottom lane objective just a gamble sometimes because you could get 3 Regice and it would be such a big oof. I feel that they should give an indication on what Reggie is going to spawn in the future so you know. However, with that, you can see what Reggie it will be just by panning down your camera and it will show. This is also good to do because then you'll know what your enemy team has as well if they secured a Reggie. If you didn't see it, you can tell by the colors around them as they will have a circle aura on the ground. Red for Reggie Seal. This means that the enemy team will be dealing more damage, giving them an advantage if you fight within these buff timeframes. Orange for Reggie Rock. This means that they will have more defenses. This will be more noticeable on your tanky opponents. And yellow for Reggie Ice, which just doesn't really do anything. Number 8, farm these. At the 8-minute mark in the middle of the map where Rayquaza spawns, there are a ton of wild Pokemon to farm. They're giving you a huge learning experience if you play well around it. The birds in the middle of the map get ignored so much by my team when I play. Somehow not the enemy team, but my team all of a sudden cannot see. I usually always go to these. When I started playing on the new map, it was pretty fun because I was the only one that went to these and it always gave me like one whole level. Now, for me at least, it's usually contested, so be prepared to fight for these if you want the birds. Personally, I feel that it's best to have at least one from top and one from bottom to rotate to these middle birds so someone is at least defending as well. And since we're on the topic of farming, make sure you farm everything. Farm is so important for the experience to give you that stat lead. I think I said this earlier, but I just want to make sure you guys know farming is so important. Number 9, you can no longer see health on the objectives. A huge change on this map is that you can no longer see the health of any of the objectives. So this pretty much makes it harder to snipe things or steal things because you have to be close to see their health, and getting that close can be pretty dangerous. Regieleki now resets its health as well if no one is in attack range, unlike Rotom, which just stayed the same health. But you know if the enemy is fighting the objective because it will start moving around. This also makes solo queue a lot harder because like before when you were solo queue, you could just snipe all these objectives or steal them. Even with Rayquaza, you could just like jump in and steal the objective, but you have to be pretty close now to see it. Number 10, you do not have to fully heal at base. So this is just a little tiny tip that I thought, well, I like doing at least. I think the healing is slower in base, and honestly, you want to try and spend as least the amount of time in base as you can. I don't know if that's just me, but it just feels slower. I think it is slower. You don't actually have to wait until you're full health at base if you're going to be on a goal zone. So for me, I start running down a bit before or jump into the goal zone a bit earlier, as the goal zone usually will just heal me for the last bits. You don't have to sit in there and wait for full health. You can actually quickly grab a bit of health running down the goal zones, or you can just grab health jumping on a goal zone, but you gotta make sure it's like within a threshold that you'll actually do this. You don't want to leave the base early where that a lot of health is missing. You want to make sure you get all your health back. And with that, we have reached the end. Those are the 10 tips I have in this video. However, I will be making a part 2 to this, so please do subscribe to the bell to be notified for more guides and updates. Didn't want to make this video extremely long. It takes a long time to edit these videos. I'm gonna work on the second one. There are more tips I have for you, but I would love to hear your tips in the comments down below, so feel free to let me know. Thank you so much for watching, trainers. I hope these tips help you. I just want to help you win your games. I want to help you improve. I also have a really good video coming out regarding all of this as well, and I'm very excited to show you. It's something I've been working on for a while because I wanted to make sure I completely understood this. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified because it would really help my channel out. Okay, that is all for this video. Thank you so much for watching, trainers. I hope to catch you for the next one. Bye!